Welcome to the Dairy News and Views podcast, a production of the Iowa State University Extension and Outreach Dairy Team. Our podcast covers current educational, research, and industry tools available for your operation to manage healthy cows and calves while producing the highest quality dairy products. Thanks for joining us today on Dairy News and Views from the ISU Dairy Team. I'm Jen Bentley, Northeast Iowa Dairy Field Specialist, and today I'm here with my Dairy Team Extension colleagues, Dr. Gail Carpenter, State Extension Specialist, and Dr. Philip Jardin, State Veterinary Extension Specialist. So welcome back to the podcast.
Great to be here, Jen.
Yep, thank you, Jen. It was fun to be out amongst everybody during the Dairy Days this year.
Dairy Days is honestly one of my favorite times of year. It's always very at the end, I'm tired, but it's so great just to be out and about in the state and driving around Iowa and seeing our dairy producers face to face.
Yep, and stopping to get beef sticks at the local park markets.
Yes.
I was kind of wondering what you guys were going to be, where you were going to be stopping this year.
Well, we always have to go to the Edgewood Locker, right? That's a guaranteed stop for us. And Kelowna Creamery. We didn't actually make it to Kelowna Creamery this year, but that's usually one that we try to make work. We did get Kelowna bars, though, of course, at lunch. So even if we don't stop at the creamery, we always have a chance to have some local Kelowna products.
Yep, I was a little bummed we didn't get to go to get gelato in Sioux County.
Yes.
Because we got snowed out that day. We did it by Zoom, that last one.
We moved this a month back this year so that we would have less chance of risky weather, and then we got a blizzard in March. So the Midwest just does not have a good time of year to have meetings.
It likes to follow us.
That's right.
Site was the coldest day of the year, right?
Yep.
And we do it in January. It's still the coldest day of the year.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do.
So in the two and a half weeks that we had Dairy Days, it was minus 20, plus 50. We had a thunderstorm and we had a blizzard. March is certainly keeps us on our toes.
Yes, it does.
But certainly appreciative of producers that made it out to the program. I think all locations, I thought it was pretty cool, the group that we had at each one, just very interactive and, glad to be there, and just they wanted to talk and listen. And I thought it was just pretty cool setting for each location.
Yeah. No, we had a good crowd. I think that was probably one of my favorite things that we did this year was the recap of the dairy industry survey. So we talked a little bit about those surveys that we submitted, that we distributed out there in the fall. Many of you listening received it, went out to all licensed Iowa dairy producers. Many of you listening may have even filled it out because we had a relatively high response rate, which we were pretty happy with. And then we had a few, as we've been working through the data, we thought, well, maybe we have some questions to throw back to our dairy producers here. So we had a few topics that we kind of honed in on and talked to our producers about with a facilitated discussion. And so it was kind of fun not to be the only people talking, but to also hear from our producers and hear what's on their minds as well, and kind of let them take the stage for a little bit. That was really, I enjoyed that immensely. It's a lot of fun when we get to hear what our dairymen have to say.
Yeah, it was great. They're so willing to share so much about their businesses and their thought process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it was a true testament to the program. We were going to, be done at 2:30, and in most cases it was 2:45, 3 o'clock, and people were still wanting to talk. So that was good.
Well, sometimes it was probably because they didn't want to have to go back out in the cold, but we'll take credit for that too.
I do want to give a shout out to, our local sponsorship, because we can't do this program without industry partners. So we had the Osage Vet Clinic and Alliant Energy. We had Lang's Dairy Equipment. We had Community Bank. We had Citizens Savings Bank. We had Innovative Ag Service. Am I forgetting anybody? I think those are the ones that were sponsoring, whether that was the meals, the meeting space, and they were also there locally to visit with producers and talk about things that they have available to the producers. So I always think that's a good partnership that we have with our industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great to see all these community organizations that are still there and still involved with their communities and want to see farmers be successful.
Yes, I really enjoyed the hearing from a different agronomist every time.
Yes.
Some of the agronomists from around the state, and is pretty much the same talk, but a little bit of difference in their approach to presenting the material and the question and answer part. So I thought that was great. They're helping what they do.
Yeah, that's the thing. For those of us that go to all 5 locations, by the time we get to the 5th location, we like know all the jokes that the other people are going to tell. We could probably give their talks along with them. But having a different agronomist kind of fill in for each of those talks, it kept it fresh. It was really great that, the people who were local, regional in those counties could speak up for what's going on in their region. And some really great content. I think that talk we had so many questions about, it seemed like at the end, the agronomist speaking about alternatives to corn silage and some of these cover crops and alternative crops that farmers can use to fill their forage inventory beyond corn silage, not trying to get rid of corn silage altogether, but how can we supplement the corn silage that we feed in our diets? And it was a lot of really great discussion that the producers had about that talk as well.
And then Fred, of course, talked about the milk marketing and the new federal order. And I listened to that talk 5 times, and I don't think I could give that one. He had such a deep knowledge of that complicated process.
I almost understand it now, but I still not quite. No, it's there. And that was another one that I think had a lot of Q&A around and a lot of discussion around what these new milk marketing orders mean, or what the not the new orders, but what the changes to the orders mean and what producers can expect. You had a lot of discussion around that. And then, of course, your talk, Philip, I think people enjoyed quite a bit as well. A lot of really new cutting edge information.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting to get the perspective of the participants, the dairymen that were there. Of course, it was different in different parts of the state. Parts of the state went through high path avian influenza, and Northwest Iowa did not. And I think there was a difference.
Northeast Iowa did not.
Yeah, Northwest Iowa did. North, and the rest of the state did not. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry if I said that wrong.
Northwest Iowa had high path. That's what we can say. Yep.
Yep. And so I think there's a difference of experience there because they lived through it, and it's kind of a foreign disease to the other parts of the state. There are a lot of questions on that. I think a lot of people had an interest in whether there's going to be a vaccine or not, which I've talked to my poultry colleagues quite a bit about, and there's just a lot of difference of opinion on that, both scientifically, politically, and then from a trade perspective. I think it's good that we might be able to have a vaccine, but it's not a slam dunk.
Yeah.
And of course, now we have a new variety that we talked about. The herds in one herd in Arizona and 6 or 7 herds in Nevada have the D11 strain instead of the B313 strain. And so that adds a new wrinkle to that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's my talk was about some feed evaluation and feed cost pricing tools. Larry talked about some feed pricing spreadsheet tools that he has, the Crop Trans program. And those are kind of like, I could give that in March, or I could give that in, January. I can give it any time of year. Those really haven't changed too much in recent years anyway, kind of an evergreen type of topic. But I think you had to update your slides even from the beginning to the end with, states status changing and that sort of thing.
That's right. Every day there's a little bit of a change.
Yep. That's how it's really cutting edge stuff is when, you have to be like, well, I updated these slides 2 days ago and now it's this. Yeah.
Well, on Wednesday, I updated it an hour before the talk.
Yep.
That's when I found out that Idaho had a new case. So I had to
boy.
And I think just about at every location we had representative from public health, right? That was there. Just giving education around health and safety for dairy farm workers. And so they had a lot of handouts and educational resources. And I think that tied in really well, Phil, with your topic there. So it was fun to have them along too.
Yeah, it was. That was great.
I got my COVID vaccination in Dubuque County because I hadn't gotten my Philip and I both did. We both had COVID this fall, so we hadn't gotten our booster, and then we just popped out to the mobile health unit and got our boosters. So
yep.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see the different partnerships that we are able to have. And again, just seeing these rural communities coming out to support dairy farmers and seeing the local folks that are there to provide support to the dairy producers, whether that's the local bank or the local public health. It's really, really great to see.
Yep. I really liked your talk, Gail. You talked about feed pricing. and how
Hmm.
you can use those tools to find out what are the good bargains coming up. And it's like an important part of what we need to be thinking about on the dairies.
Yeah, yep. Well, and we heard from the dairy survey that commodity prices are very high on a lot of folks' minds, and that's something that also came out in our discussion of that dairy survey is commodity prices and the impact that that has on businesses. And FeedVal version 7 is the tool that I walked through. That's not an Iowa State tool. That is from our colleagues at the University of Wisconsin. They have that, but it's freely available. It's pretty easy and intuitive tool to play with. And if you just Google FeedVal, one word, FeedVal, you can find that on the UW extension page with a bunch of other really useful tools. And it's really helpful when you're looking for bargain feeds. If you're trying to figure out which byproduct feeds or which commodity feeds are a good bargain based on the needs of your farm, it's a really great place to kind of kickstart some of those discussions with your nutritionist.
I know at some locations we had producers bring in their feed samples. So you were running the NIR analysis. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, no, I didn't. Just that it's really a fun toy for me to play with. I spent that's part of when you start a new job, you get something called a startup fund, and I spent some of my startup fund on a fancy NIR handheld that and for the forage packet, so I can analyze forages and get some producers some information in real time and email it to them or to their nutritionist and get some. It's not going to give you minerals and all of the really in-depth stuff that you'd get from like wet chemistry, but it'll give you some dry matter and fiber and crude protein. And it has on corn silage in particular, it has a few extra nutrients, starch and some other extra nutrients in there as well. So, and it's kind of fun that it's in my little briefcase and I bring it in and set it up. And I had somebody come up at the end at one of our locations and was like, "Oh, I wanted to watch you do that. I didn't realize you'd already done it." It's kind of neat. And then we ran feed samples for people for free for those who bought them or brought them. And then we had lots of goodies. You know, our sponsors, Midwest Dairy, as well, brought a bunch of stuff for dairy producers, branded things. I picked up a first aid kit and a utility knife, and all of our sponsors at different locations brought different goodies. So people did not walk away empty-handed. But in addition to the goodies that they could pick up at the event, we're going to be doing a drawing for a new hay probe that people who filled out our evaluation at the end will be put in the drawing drawer. So we'd kind of been focusing on feeds and feed tools, and most of those tools are electronic, but we decided we'd provide at least one lucky person with a actual physical tool.
Yeah, I think that's kind of fun. Last year we did that, and Phil and I actually made a visit out to the farm that won the Brix refractometer last year. So it was really nice to make that connection and kind of walk them through the tool. And hopefully we can do that again this year with the hay probe and get Shelby out on the farm and kind of walk through how to use it and answer any questions for him too.
Yeah.
So the survey results were pretty interesting, and I thought great discussion.
Yeah, there was a lot of really interesting discussion around that. So some of the four kind of areas that we heard a lot of feedback from on the survey that we talked to our producers about more were farm transitions and succession planning, financial sustainability, labor and workforce challenges, and then beef and dairy integration. And all of those topics, some locations it was kind of interesting to hear different locations and their different perspectives on those four topics that we spent time talking about. We went through some of the survey results, but then we asked folks, so what's been your experience, and does this reflect what the survey is saying? And it did, for the most part. We felt like our survey was pretty reflective of folks' experiences, but then we also got pretty in depth with how they see these things playing out on their farm. So yeah, again, I love opportunities to hear from producers give them a chance to talk instead of just listening to us talk the whole time.
Yeah, I think that came through on the evaluations of people that filled out those evaluations. They really enjoyed the brainstorming or just the networking session there. So looking forward to providing more of that survey results in the next couple of months as we get that summarized and take into consideration those comments that we heard from producers this winter and put those into writing and have a nice publication for people to look at and see what the Iowa dairy industry is doing. So
Yeah.
with that, I think we're going to wrap it up here. And again, we want to thank those that attended the Dairy Days for coming out. And if you missed it and you have some questions about what we were talking about, feel free to reach us, and we can get you in connection with some resources there. You can always email us at dairyextension@iastate.edu, or individually, we all have emails. But again, just reach out to us however you feel you want to do that. And with that, thanks for being on, Gail and Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to visiting with you on the next Dairy News and Views from ISU. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. For the full non-discrimination statement or combination inquiries, go to www.extension.iastate.edu/diversity/EXT.